morning. So my review of today, and it's only going to be a very quick brief impressions really on a fragrance, of course, and it's by Penhaligons and it's from their new London range, and this one's called Belgravia Chypre. So when I just did a quick spray yesterday, because it arrived yesterday, when I did a quick spray yesterday I immediately thought it smelled a little bit like Portrait of a Lady. So I'm going to wear it properly today and see how it goes. So it is only a little sample. I think to be fair to it, I'm going to use it all up, because that way I'm using about as much as I would if I owned a bottle, which I think is really what you need to do when testing samples. So I do that last little bit on my other arm and I'll give you some impressions, but immediately it does remind me, now smelling it again, I would think it may be Portrait of a Lady. It's quite similar in that it's got that kind of fruity rose, so that raspberry rose kind of smell, and it's got some pepperiness about it, which is really nice. I like that a lot, like a pink pepper, and a touch of sweetness. It's very woodsy, it's very dry and incensey, and perhaps there's also a tiny touch of patchouli as well. I'm not quite sure. I need to check the notes. I did check the notes briefly yesterday, and I remember being glad that I was validated that it was rose as the main player, because rose is quite strong in the fragrance, certainly when you first spray it. So that's how it smells to me. Spicy, sweet, jammy rose, dry and woodsy. Let's see how it develops. Hiya, so I found a shady spot under the tree to give you my final thoughts on Belgravia Chypre. Just show you once again, that is the sample. The bottle comes in 100 ml only at the moment, and it's £137. What do I think? It does remind me of Portrait of a Lady, but it's like you took Portrait of a Lady and you did something to it. Now I'm not quite sure what I mean, but it's like you mushed it all up, smoothed it out a little bit, and came up with a Portrait of a Lady soup. I'm really not quite sure what I mean, but there are elements of Portrait of a Lady, and I think it's because there's so many notes in common. So the notes in the Belgravia Chypre, you have rose and raspberry, they're both in Portrait of a Lady. Pink pepper, I think that's in Portrait of a Lady. There's certainly quite a few spices in Portrait of a Lady. Pink pepper and mate tea. There's also labdanum and bergamot in the top, and oakmoss and patchouli. So there are quite a few similarities, but Belgravia Chypre is a much quieter fragrance. It's not projecting that strongly from round here. It's just giving me a very light aura. From my wrist, it could be 12-hour-old Portrait of a Lady, if that makes any sense. It's a lot quieter, but it is reminiscent of Portrait of a Lady, and that's really, now that's in my head. It's very hard for me to explain to you exactly how it smells without comparing it to that. It does smell like a smooth amber with a rose and some spices and a bit of sweetness. It's very pleasant, but it doesn't excite me the way that Portrait of a Lady does excite me. I think if you are in the market for Portrait of a Lady and you're considering Belgravia Chypre as a slightly cheaper option, I think you'll be disappointed, because the performance isn't anything like that of Portrait of a Lady. It's a very quiet, subtle fragrance, and it's very smooth and just gives you a gentle aura, which for some people could actually be better than Portrait of a Lady in that respect, if you're looking for something less in your face. I have to admit, when I had Portrait of a Lady, I had the bottle, but I didn't reach for it very much because it was so beastly. I found it overpowering, and it wasn't very versatile for me because it was just a bit too much. I do regret selling it though, and I wish I still had it, but you know, times were hard. But would I buy Belgravia Chypre? No, in short, I wouldn't. It's very pleasant. I think it's worth checking out. I think it's okay value for money, and I'd imagine once it's been on the market a short time, the prices will start to come down, as they generally do. If you can find them in an outlet store, you should be able to get a better deal. But at the moment, as it stands, it's not one I would probably reach for that often. It's a very pleasant, spicy, rosy, ambery kind of smell, but it's not knocking my socks off by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm going to leave it there. Very short one for you today, and I'll come back with another video very soon.